Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful for You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. When Bill Spencer walked into that hospital room that afternoon, the last thing on his mind was the word father. He had lived through decades of chaos, business wars, betrayals, heartbreak, and the kind of power struggles that could drain the soul right out of a man. But nothing could have prepared him for the gut punch that was about to come. He wasn't there expecting news that would change his life. In fact, he was only there because Poppy had asked him to stop by. Her voice over the phone had been shaky, urgent, carrying a weight he couldn't quite name. He thought maybe it had to do with Luna's recovery, maybe something about her legal situation or her emotional state after the months of turmoil she had endured. Never, not in his wildest, most reckless imagination, did Bill expect to walk out of that hospital knowing Luna Nozawa was his biological daughter. And yet, in that one moment, the floor beneath him felt like it cracked in half. It began so simply. Bill had shown up, flashing that familiar Spencer smirk, trying to keep things light despite the thick tension in the air. He had always liked Luna, her courage, her intelligence, the spark in her eyes that reminded him of something he couldn't quite place. But as he entered the quiet hospital room, something felt off. Luna was sitting on the bed, pale but awake, her hands twisted together nervously in her lap. Poppy was standing by the window, her arms wrapped around herself, looking like she was about to confess to a crime. Bill looked from one to the other, his instincts kicking in. He'd been in enough negotiations and boardroom ambushes to recognize when someone was hiding something big. He tried to joke, to break the ice, but Poppy didn't even smile. Her eyes glistened with tears, and when she finally turned to him, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Bill, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said a long time ago." For a second, Bill thought she was going to talk about the lawsuit or Luna's situation with Will. But then, he saw the look in her eyes, that same haunted look he had seen once before, decades ago, when another woman had stood before him shaking with the truth. His chest tightened. "Poppy, what is this?" he asked, his tone softer than usual, his usual bravado slipping away. Poppy's lips trembled as she tried to find the words. "Bill. Luna isn't just someone I met years after you and I had that night in San Francisco. She's your daughter." The words seemed to echo in the sterile air of the hospital room. For a heartbeat, Bill couldn't process them. His ears rang, his mind went blank, and his body went cold. "What?" he breathed out, his voice barely audible. He staggered back, one hand gripping the edge of the table for balance. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. He blinked rapidly, searching Poppy's face for any sign of a joke, a lie, anything that might make sense of what he'd just heard. But she wasn't joking. Tears were spilling down her cheeks now. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said, her voice cracking. "At first, I wasn't even sure. But then I found the old test results, and I confirmed it. Bill, Luna's your biological daughter." Bill's heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his throat. He turned toward Luna, who was sitting there frozen, her wide brown eyes filled with confusion, fear, and disbelief. You knew?" he asked her, his voice trembling in a way it never did. She shook her head rapidly. "No. I swear, I didn't. Mom just told me last night." He could barely speak. His entire body felt like it was shutting down, like he was outside himself watching this moment unfold from a distance. Bill Spencer, the man who had built empires, destroyed rivals, and stood tall through countless scandals, suddenly looked small, fragile, even. His hands trembled as he ran them through his hair, pacing, gasping, trying to catch up with reality. "This can't be real," he muttered. "This can't be," but when he looked up and saw Poppy crying and Luna staring at him with those same piercing blue-gray eyes, eyes that now made horrifying sense, the truth hit him like a truck. "Oh my God," he whispered, almost to himself. "She has my eyes." Poppy nodded through her tears. "I thought I could protect her, Bill. You were complicated back then. I didn't want her to grow up in your world, with your enemies, your press scandals, your reputation. I wanted her to have a normal life. But I was wrong. She deserved to know her father. Bill felt his chest tighten as every part of his past came crashing down on him. All those years he'd spent wondering what his legacy would be, what kind of man his sons would remember him as, and all that time he'd had a daughter out there, his flesh and blood, struggling, being judged, being dragged through courtrooms and tabloids, and he hadn't been there. He turned toward Luna again, his eyes glassy. You're my daughter?" he said softly, almost afraid of the answer. Luna's lips quivered. "I don't even know what to say," she whispered. "I mean, all this time, I thought I was just me. I thought my dad was some guy my mom didn't want to talk about. I never imagined," her voice broke, and Bill's heart cracked with it. He took a hesitant step toward her, then another, before stopping just beside her bed. His voice was hoarse. "If I'd known, if I'd had any idea, I would have been there for you. I would have protected you, Luna." The weight of those words hung in the air. They both knew it was true. Whatever Bill Spencer's flaws, he was fiercely loyal to family. Once he loved someone, he fought for them with everything he had. But at that moment, he wasn't the powerful billionaire or the ruthless businessman. He was just a man facing the truth that he had missed out on the most precious thing life could offer, time with his daughter. Poppy reached out, touching his arm lightly. "I'm sorry, Bill. I should have told you. I should have given you the chance to be her father." Bill swallowed hard, his throat dry. "You should have," he said quietly, but without anger, just heartbreak. "You should have told me 20 years ago. You should have let me love her." His voice cracked on that last word, and Luna's tears finally spilled over. In that moment, something shifted in the room. Luna reached out hesitantly, placing her trembling hand over Bill's. It was small, tentative, but powerful, the first bridge between a lifetime of secrets and a future neither of them had imagined. Bill looked down at her hand, then back at her face. He saw pieces of himself there, not just the physical traits, but the same stubbornness, the same fire, the same need to be seen for who she really was. "You're a Spencer," he said finally, almost in awe. "You've been one all along." Luna let out a small, shaky laugh through her tears. "Guess that explains a lot, huh?" The laughter didn't last. The silence that followed was thick with everything that couldn't be said, the missed birthdays, the father-daughter moments that would never come back, the years she spent feeling unwanted while her real father was just a few miles away, building skyscrapers and raising 2 other sons. Bill sat down beside her bed, trying to find his breath again. "I've made a lot of mistakes in my life," he said quietly, "but this is the one that hurts the most. I should have known. Somehow, I should have known." Poppy was sobbing softly by the window. She knew that her decision, though made out of fear and love, had robbed both of them of something sacred. "You were so wild back then, Bill," she said softly. "I thought you'd move on. I didn't want Luna growing up in the shadow of the Spencer empire." Bill turned to her, his eyes burning. "You think you did the right thing, but you didn't just protect her, you erased me. You took away my right to be her father. You took away her right to know who she was." His voice broke again, and Luna flinched at the pain in it. "Please, don't fight," she whispered. "I can't handle that right now. I just want to understand what this means." And so they all sat there for a long time, 3 people bound by blood and secrets, trying to breathe through the enormity of it all. When Bill finally spoke again, his tone had changed. There was steel in it now, the same determination that made him who he was. "Luna, I can't go back and fix the past, but I promise you this, I'm going to make it right from here on out. You're my daughter. You're a Spencer. And no one, not the law, not the press, not anyone, is going to hurt you again." His words were simple, but they came from somewhere deep and real. Luna looked at him through her tears, her expression softening into something close to acceptance. "You really mean that?" she asked. Bill nodded firmly. "I've lost too much already. I'm not losing you." Poppy wiped her eyes, whispering, "I just hope it's not too late." Bill turned to her and said, "It's never too late for family." That was the moment he truly believed it. Later that evening, as Bill walked out of the hospital, he stopped in the parking lot and leaned against his car, staring up at the sky. The city lights flickered, reflecting in his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he felt something he hadn't felt since his sons were little, a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with money or power. Luna wasn't just another chapter in his story, she was his redemption. She was proof that even a man who'd made every mistake in the book could still get one thing right if given the chance. And as he stood there, he thought about what came next, the conversations he'd have to have with Liam, with Wyatt, with everyone who knew him as the cold, unbreakable dollar bill. They'd never seen him like this, raw, shaken, human. He could already imagine the look on Liam's face when he found out Luna was his sister. The realization that his father's newest enemy in the courtroom had been family all along would hit hard. But Bill didn't care. He'd face it. He'd face everything, because for the first time in years, he had someone, worth fighting for that wasn't about control or ego. It was about love. In his car, Bill sat in silence for a long time before starting the engine. He replayed every moment with Luna in his head, every argument, every visit, every time he'd felt that strange connection he couldn't explain. It was like the universe had been trying to tell him something all along, and he'd been too blind to see it. Now he knew. And he wasn't going to waste another second pretending otherwise. As he drove home, his mind was spinning with thoughts of how to protect her, how to make up for lost time, how to tell the world that Luna Nozawa wasn't just some girl with a troubled past, she was Luna Spencer, his daughter. By the time he pulled up to his mansion, the sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting the sky in streaks of orange and gold. Bill stood in his driveway, looking out at the horizon, feeling a strange mix of heartbreak and hope. For years, he'd thought his family was complete, that his sons were all he'd ever have. But fate had given him one more chance to be the father he never truly got to be. And though he had nearly fainted from shock when the truth first hit him, now that he'd accepted it, he felt stronger. He knew that this was his moment to change, to prove that even a man like him could grow, could love, could start over. Inside, he poured himself a glass of scotch, but this time, he didn't drink it in anger or regret. He raised it quietly, almost reverently, and whispered, "To Luna." Then he smiled, a small, tired, but genuine smile. Because for all the pain, all the chaos, all the lies, something beautiful had finally come out of it. He had a daughter. And that changed everything. Bill barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Luna's face, the shock, the tears, the hurt, and that haunting moment when she had said softly, "I never even knew I had a father." Those words looped through his mind like a song he couldn't turn off. For decades, he had prided himself on being a man in control of his business, his image, his destiny. But now, for the first time, he felt completely unmoored. He wasn't Dollar Bill Spencer, the ruthless mogul, anymore. He was a man who had just discovered that he had missed 20-something years of his daughter's life. A man who couldn't go back in time to fix it, no matter how much money or power he had. By morning, his decision was made. He wasn't hiding this. He wasn't sweeping it under the rug or letting gossip control the story. His sons, Liam and Wyatt, deserved to know the truth. They had a sister, and it was time the Spencer family faced that reality head-on. So he called them both to the mansion. His tone was sharp, urgent, the kind of tone that made both of them drop what they were doing and come immediately. When Liam arrived first, his expression was wary. He'd seen that look in his father's eyes before, the mixture of anxiety and command that usually meant some kind of corporate disaster was unfolding. "Dad, what's going on?" "You said it was important," he asked, walking into the living room. Bill stood by the fireplace, his jaw tight, his posture unusually stiff. "It's not business," Bill said quietly. "It's personal." Liam frowned. "Personal? What do you mean?" Before Bill could answer, Wyatt came in behind him, tossing his keys on the table. You sound like someone died, he joked, but the humor fell flat instantly when he saw the look on his father's face. Okay, what's going on here? Bill motioned for them to sit. He didn't sit himself. He couldn't. His body was running on adrenaline and emotion. There's something I need to tell you, he began, his voice low and steady, though his hands trembled slightly. It's about Luna. That name alone was enough to tense the air. Liam's brows knit together immediately. Luna Nozawa, he asked cautiously. What about her? I thought you wanted nothing to do with her after everything that happened with the case. Wyatt crossed his arms, confused. Yeah, Dad, you practically wanted her locked up. What changed? Bill took a deep breath, looking from one son to the other. He could feel the weight of what he was about to say pressing down on his chest like a boulder. Luna isn't who we thought she was, he said slowly. She's my daughter. The silence that followed was deafening. Liam's jaw dropped, and Wyatt blinked several times like he hadn't heard correctly. I'm sorry, what? Wyatt finally said, half laughing in disbelief. Bill's voice didn't waver this time. You heard me. Luna is my biological daughter. Poppy and we were together years ago. I didn't know she was pregnant. She never told me. Liam stood up so fast the chair nearly fell backward. You've got to be kidding me, he said, running a hand through his hair. Dad, that means, he stopped, his mind racing. That means Luna is my sister? Bill nodded slowly, his expression solemn. Yeah, son. She is. Wyatt sat there, stunned into silence. He finally muttered, Holy hell. He looked up at his father, disbelief still etched across his face. So let me get this straight, the same Luna we've all been talking about, the one caught up in all this chaos, is actually your kid? Our sister? Bill nodded again. I found out yesterday. Poppy told me at the hospital. Liam let out a shaky breath, pacing the room. This is insane. I mean, Luna? She's been through hell these past few months, and now this? Does she even know? Bill nodded. She knows. And she's just as shocked as we are. He sighed heavily, his voice thick with emotion. I almost fainted when Poppy told me. I didn't believe it at first. But I looked at her, really looked at her, and it all made sense. The eyes, the fire in her, that same Spencer stubbornness. She's mine. There's no doubt. Wyatt leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. So, what happens now? You gonna do a DNA test, make it official? Bill nodded. Already in motion. But I don't need a test to know. I can feel it. I saw it the moment she looked at me. Liam sank back down, shaking his head slowly. Wow. Just, wow. Then, after a long pause, he looked at his father again. So what does this mean for Luna? For Poppy? You gonna bring them into the family now? Bill didn't hesitate. Yes. I've missed too much time already. I'm not losing her now. I'm going to be the father she never had. Wyatt exhaled deeply. You sure about this, Dad? This isn't some short-term thing. You're talking about changing all our lives. Bill met his eyes. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And if that's what it takes, I'm ready for it. Liam rubbed the back of his neck, his expression torn. This is a lot. I mean, I can't believe it. Luna, my sister. I didn't even like her at first, and now, he trailed off, the realization sinking in. God, she must be overwhelmed. She is, Bill said quietly. She's been through more than any young woman should have to. She's scared, confused, and she feels like her whole world just flipped upside down. I need both of you to be there for her. She's family now. No matter what's happened before, that's all that matters. Liam and Wyatt exchanged a look. The shock was still there, but beneath it, something else was growing, understanding. Bill wasn't asking them as their boss or as the head of Spencer Publications. He was asking them as a father who had just discovered he'd missed out on half his child's life. Wyatt finally nodded. Okay. Yeah. She's family. We'll figure it out. Liam gave a faint smile. She's got the Spencer blood, that's for sure. Guess we're stuck with her. Bill chuckled softly, the sound bittersweet. Yeah. Guess we are. That night, as the three men sat together, the Spencer family in its newest form, there was something unspoken in the air, forgiveness. For all their differences, all their fights, this revelation reminded them of what truly mattered. Family wasn't about perfection. It was about standing together when everything fell apart. Meanwhile, across town, Luna sat by her window in the hospital room, staring out at the Los Angeles skyline. She still couldn't wrap her mind around it. Bill Spencer, that larger-than-life man she'd only ever seen as an enemy, a ruthless businessman who had once wanted her behind bars, was her father. Her biological father. It didn't feel real. She kept touching her locket, the one her mother had given her years ago, wondering if it somehow symbolized the truth that had been hidden all along.